Hey there, Broadly Cast. Welcome back. I'm Jedi, and today I'm super thrilled to introduce to you our first guest co-host on the show. Her name is Annette Cory. She's a full-time reporter and producer at Liberty Broadcast Experience in Central Virginia, and she was also part of the 2024 Paris Olympics in their research room. This year, she's back in the research room for the 2026 Milan Olympics. I'm really excited for you to hear her story about how she met the Lord, how she got into the field of media, and at the very end, we're talking about hustle culture. So, without further ado, everybody please welcome Annie Cory. Well, Annie, thank you so much for taking the time to join us on the show. I'm so excited you're here.
I'm so excited to be here. I've been waiting for this.
Have you really? Been counting down the days?
I've been counting down the days. It's in my little planner, my written planner.
Aw. Well, I just want to start off with probably the most important story. Would you be willing to just share part of your testimony or how, Jesus has just impacted your life?
Yeah, totally. So I super blessed to grow up in a Christian home. Like my mom and dad were really great in just showing me Christ from a really young age. And they put me in a lot of places and environments where Christ was constantly shown to me. So super blessed to grow up that way. And then I think that my faith actually became my own when I was in like fifth grade or so. I remember distinctly going to a school play where honestly, I don't even remember what they were talking about. All I remember is that it was like a military son coming home. I don't know what happened, but for some reason after that play, I was like, I need to go and give my life to Jesus Christ right now. So I like went up into my bed. We had like bunk beds, and I like got on my knees and I asked Jesus to come into my heart. And so that's like the moment that I point back to as my moment of salvation. And it's kind of funny. After that, I like was so excited to go and tell my mom what I had done. And poor moms, like they're so burned out all the time. She finally got her second to sit down and relax. And I was like, Mom, and she was like, what? I'm so tired. And I was like, I just gave my life to Jesus. And she was like, oh my gosh. She was like, that's amazing. But yeah, so that was like my salvation story. And then really ever since then, it's just been a process of like me being a work in progress. I think that high school, I got a little bit distracted by just my own personal goals and other things that threw me off track in the sense of I wasn't constantly pushing after the Lord and getting to know Him deeper. I always had a really good moral foundation of like, hey, this is what's right and what's wrong. And I'm just the kind of person where like, I've always been so deathly afraid of doing what's wrong. Like I just am always, I guess, like a goody two shoes, I guess. So nothing, like I never went astray too far, but my heart wasn't constantly pursuing Christ. And I think that coming to Liberty was just an incredible opportunity to like see what it's like and have those people around me who are constantly pursuing Jesus at all times and learn from amazing people that came to speak in convocation, and all my professors just constantly pouring into us and learning what it's like to have those dreams and those goals, but be able to bring Christ along with it and keep Him at the top priority all the time. It really helped me develop in my faith. And I feel like right now I'm in the best place I've ever been, and I just love getting to pair like the exciting dreams and goals that God has given me with that constant pursuit of just growing closer to Him and growing in my faith.
Something you said really jumped out to me. You said for a long time you were so afraid of making a mistake and doing something wrong. And I feel like I've heard that so often, especially within this industry. I guess, like, where are you now with that? What has helped you grow through that?
Yeah, I think it's a big thing because I've always been such a big people pleaser. Like I just want everyone to love me. I want everyone to think I'm great. Even like growing up with three sisters, like this sounds terrible, but like I wanted to be the sister who's doing the best and be the child that my parents can be like, wow. And, when you look back at it, like obviously it's a sinful mindset to always be in trying to win the approval of man. And I think it carried over into just my job that I do because I always want to be liked. I always want people to think I'm doing a great job. I think honestly, it's kind of funny. Like my boyfriend has been a very great source of like helping me check myself in that because he's probably the person I talk to most nowadays. And when I, say things to him like, I want them to like me. Like, I don't want them to think I'm da da da. He's been a really great resource of being like, if something's wrong, like you're not going to always be liked. Like, it's also like God calls us to be able to correct and the Bible says that we're not going to be loved. Like the world is going to hate us. So I think when it comes to me, like wanting to really share Christ with my lifelong friends and really just give them the gospel, but being so afraid of them turning away from me and never wanting to be my friend again, like stuff like that. He's been a great resource of saying, like, that's just what you have to do in this life. And God tells you it's going to happen, and God already sees the situation's beginning and end. And so I just think applying that to my workspace too, where it's like, especially in a job where, like, if I mess up and I'm on camera, like, it's very visible. It's everyone sees it happen. They all know I messed up. I think that's also been a good process of like understanding I'm going to mess up. People are going to see it. They're not going to think I'm the most amazing thing in the world all the time. And that's okay. So it's kind of where I'm at. I don't know if that was a great answer to it. It's just, it's a process.
You have people in your life who are holding you accountable to that and telling you the truth, right? Like you said, the word says that the world's going to hate us simply because of what we believe and who we follow. And,
Yeah.
I feel like some of us don't follow Christ well, and there's good reason to be hated in that situation. But in First Peter, it talks about how if we're going to be persecuted, don't make it because of yourself. Like, don't be that guy who deserves the persecution, because if you do evil and are punished for it, what good is that? But you
Yeah.
have people in your life preaching the word over you. You have a relationship with Christ. Like, I'm not saying it's perfect, but
Mm-hmm.
you're receiving the word, you're receiving the truth into that. So yeah, I think that was a great answer. So let's pivot a little bit. Let's talk about how you got into the field of media. Where did you start?
Mm-hmm.
You have a really fun story, and I love if you could share that.
Yeah. So I think for me, it all started when I was probably about like 9 or 10, and I started watching 49ers games with my dad. First of all, he was a college baseball player. He kind of always dreamed of having a son, but he ended up having 3 girls. So I kind of became that honorary kid that would just sit on the couch and watch games with him. And I was just hooked by this NFL team. I thought they were the greatest thing I've ever seen. And for many, many years, like growing up, we would go to games together. We would watch the game. We would listen to talk radio after the game. Like, I was so invested. When I see these sideline reporters and these females on my screen when I'm watching NFL games, like the first thing I think is, of course I want to do that. Like, I want to be able to be as close to the sport I love, the team I love as possible. I can't be an NFL player, so why not try to get as close to these games and these situations as I can? So I think for me, that started out in high school when I really started shifting from like I loved the game into like I love the game and I love the people who cover it. I'm reading their articles, I understand their career paths and how they got there, and I'm fascinated by what they do. So it was probably when I was a junior in high school, and I said, like, man, I don't want to wait anymore to be able to start this sports career. Like, I just want to get started. So it started by making a website. I made a website called NFC Niners. So like they play in the NFC. It's funny to say, like the NFCNiners.com. And I would just start writing articles like every other day or so, trying to be like my favorite sports writers and just covering the team and stuff. And then eventually that turned into me making it an Instagram page as well. And I eventually renamed it to something called 49ers 24/7. And I was like, I'm going to do 24/7 coverage of the 49ers. It's going to be great. And so I was making like social media updates, news reports, writing articles to go along with it. I was making these like hype videos and everything. And it was going well. Like, to be honest, like people started watching the content, they were eating it up, and I was having a great time. And it was even funny, like people started DMing me, asking me like, hey, will you come on our podcast and talk about the 49ers? And I got so scared by that because I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm so scared to go on I've never like done real talking about the team before. No one knew I was a girl. No one knew I was like 16. So I remember like, I was like, yeah, sure, I'll come onto your podcast. And like, I go into the waiting room for the podcast and they're like, who are you? And I'm like, I'm 49ers 24/7. And they're like, oh, like we didn't know you were a girl. Like, what? And I think it was funny because like even you could tell, I go on a podcast with like 3 other middle-aged guys, probably like in their 40s, 50s. And like the first question they asked me is like Annie, what were your big takeaways from the game? And I said something like our secondary is so weak right now, and we cannot defend against a dual threat quarterback. And I can see the guy, he goes, whoa, Annie, like, good answer. And my first thought was, you guys thought I wasn't going to have a good answer because I'm a teenage girl. So, really, I mean, that was fun. I did those podcasts for a good amount of time. And yeah, I did that up until I got to come to Liberty for sports broadcasting. I knew I wanted to go study it and take it from there. And I still run the page to this day. I run the Instagram page, and it has like almost 50K. So I'm still trying to like keep it going and keep the following going, because I just think it's fun. I think it's a ton of fun. So that's how I got into it. So yeah.
Wow, that is a story. I love that so much. And there's so many things that I could like pull out of there. First off, just like not waiting. Just if you love something, try it, go for it. And I think, being quite young, but also not young, being 16, you're old enough to have a couple bigger ideas, but still young enough to not be afraid to try. And I think as adults, sometimes we get so scared of just trying something new. And I had to lean into hobbies that allowed me to fail. And now, like in my
Mhm.
professional life, I feel more comfortable with failure because I created a space where like I can fail now. But to start that so young, I can see how like the pieces of your journey are just coming together. And the other thing that just stood out to me is like the representation of the female reporters, the female talent on the field. I think probably not to
Mhm.
speak into your life, but it sounds like those were really important moments to see, oh, there's a woman doing that. Like I can do that too.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I think that if I was watching and I didn't see that female example, then it wouldn't be something in my mind that I thought was attainable, and I maybe would have never aspired to do it. So yeah, even to this day, like watching female talent inspires me just because like I know I can reach that point as well. Like obviously I am inspired also by male talent because they are good at what they do too. Like there's so much you can learn from everybody, but I think there's something special about just seeing that female voice up there, and knowing like, hey, like that could be me in the near future.
Well, and you work with a lot of college students too, training up new talent. So do you think that that has affected how you train?
Yeah, I think being able to convey that message to them that this is what's available to you, and like you're not just limited to being a sideline reporter. Like you can go up there, you can be the lead play by play, you can go and be the producer, the director, you can do so many different things. I think that it's been fun for me to pass that message along to, I guess, the younger generation. It's funny to say that because I feel like I just got out of college, but now here I am like training college students to do the same thing. So yeah, I think it's so important to show them that you are totally not limited to what you think you are, what you might even see in TV. I mean, some of the best producers out there right now are females and directors, and like there's room for everybody. So it's awesome.
So Annie, it sounds like you're a very active media professional. You're working on your fun little side hustle doing the 49ers page. We talked about in your intro, you've worked with the Paris Olympics before. You're getting ready to
Mm-hmm.
do that here very shortly again for the Winter Olympics. So exciting. So
Yeah,
that
I'm so.
leads really well into what we are talking about today, which is hustle culture and productivity and eventually just, being where your feet are. So when I say hustle culture, what comes to your mind?
It's such an interesting topic because I feel like there is a lot, and it's something that I like reflect on a lot just because there's one standpoint to it where I'm young, so I need to give this everything I got, but at the same time, remembering that God intends for us to rest and there's more important things than simply my career. Like I think something I've really been reflecting on lately is just the amount of time I spend in God's presence intentionally, and growing closer to him and just checking in throughout the day. Like, am I making work my idol? And I feel like that is a really important part of hustle culture because I am young. So I am going to work hard and I'm going to give it the amount of time that I can, but also just remembering like the spiritual aspect of it as well. That's where I can like take a step back and be like, God didn't intend for me to devote every waking hour to this career that I'm pursuing. He wants me to spend the majority of my day reflecting on him and like always trying to be in his presence and striving for that. So, yeah, hustle culture. I think it's very prevalent in today's day and age in the sense of like, the more productive you are, the more successful you're going to be. Like, you're not going to get anywhere unless you're 24/7 working for it. And I think in sports too. I mean, it's like the whole thing of work while everybody else is sleeping. Like, you're going to get further by pushing in the hours where everybody's off their 9 to 5. And while in a sense that is true, like, hey, I'm still going to wake up early and I'm going to try to get what I can done. And if there's work to be done after the 9 to 5, like, I'll put in what I need to make sure I do my job effectively, but also not making that my sole focus in life, you know?
Right. You're a human being with emotions, and you need to take care of yourself mentally, physically, emotionally, pour into yourself, pour into the word, right? Spiritual health. There's more to us than just our job. And I think the same things came to mind. Busyness or productivity equals success. And really, I think that boils down to what we were talking about a little bit earlier, which was identity. I want people to like me. I want people to think I'm doing a good job. And that's not unique to this field. And I think sometimes when I tell people about this podcast and I talk about the things that we talk about, they're like, well, that's not unique to media. And I'm like, yeah, I know, but it's prevalent.
Yeah.
And I feel like
Yeah.
nobody's talking about that within
Yeah.
the people who are working in media too.
Mm-hmm.
So I also think about like being overworked and burned out. And I feel like burnout is so, so, so common. If you think you're burned out, you probably are. If you're feeling like you just can't think another thought, you're
Yeah.
probably burned out and you need a day
Yeah.
off.
Yeah. No, it's so true. I mean, honestly, I feel like I feel that way a lot more than you probably should, just because I feel like, especially in the media, sports business, I mean, I see it firsthand with you. I mean, you're constantly like late at night, being at all these different events and always go, go, go. And so I get tired when I watch you work. And then I also get tired from my own work. And yeah, I mean, it's celebrated so much to be busy. I think that was a good way that you put it. Like, not necessarily always like, oh, if you want to succeed, you have to do this, but I think it's just like a successful life is seen as a busy one. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like that's like, this sounds stupid, but all over the internet, it's like, watch my morning routine, watch my night routine. And it's like people who are just like dawn to dusk, like, I do this and I do this and I do that and I do that. And it's like, I feel like I have to do that. You know, I feel like I have to every 5 seconds be on another task and on another thing. Um, when really, like, I think it's like so intentional. Like, God designed like our muscles and our body, the only time that it recovers is when we are asleep. And God himself had that example of rest. And I think it's hard being in an industry as well where Sunday isn't always that intentional Sabbath day. We're working on a lot of Sundays. That's just how it is. So it's hard to find that time to really take that Sabbath and take that period of rest. And I think that's something that I'm still working on, is like, if I'm like, oh, I have an off day right here, like, let me make sure, like, let me get this done and that done and that done. Like, being like, no, why don't I just sleep in, spend some extra time in my Bible today? Like, really just take a walk outside. Not everything has to be put toward this picture of success that we have so far down the line.
Right. And I think we weren't designed to go, go, go 24/7. I was laughing when
Yeah.
you said 24/7. I was like, oh, 24, like 49ers 24/7.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we're not
Exactly.
designed to continuously go. And when you made such a great point of the Lord at creation setting up that example to us of taking, time to rest. It's not like God needed the rest, but that was an example for us to honor the Sabbath day, right? Keep it
Mhm.
holy. Yeah, it's not necessary to keep pushing. And I find myself honestly on my sometimes I have one day off between sets of 6 days sometimes. And
Yeah.
whether I'm in the office prepping for an event or I'm at an event, I'm in the office a lot, or I'm working a lot. So on that one off day, I find myself just kind of like shaking, like I need to be doing something. And then I
Yeah.
realize like halfway through the day, my body finally relaxes. And if I didn't have that like mental, physical reset, I
Hmm.
know that I would be squirrely, just like twitching all the time, having to go, go, go. And the moment something stops, it feels wrong. It's not wrong
Yeah.
though.
Yeah, it's not like, I feel the same way because it's especially what I'm trying to go after is like, it's very competitive. You know, there's so many people we're trying to get that spot on air, trying to be the lead reporter, blah, blah, blah. And when I see an off day, I see like, oh, this is an opportunity to network. This is an opportunity to get further because like there's so much pressure on the fact of I can't just do my job. I have to do my job plus advance in this way. I can expand my graphic design. I can get better in this department. Like there's always, it's the whole saying of like media is so expansive nowadays. You want to be a jack of all trades, but it's like sometimes there's just not enough hours in the day, and for mental sanity, like it's just not gonna happen. And that's like learning to be okay with that has been a hard process because I want to be that people pleaser. I want to tell everybody like I learned this on my off day. I can do this as well for you. Like whatever you need, I can provide. But that's not what I was designed to do. I'm not here to provide for man.
Right. Yeah, I think there's always going to be time to learn and to grow. It does not all have to happen at the same time. And the really frustrating part is like, especially since we're talking about sports, like freelance sports, if you happen to have to say no, let's say you're like a freelancer, you say no to a gig and
Mm-hmm.
somebody else fills in for you. Well, if that person does a good job, you may not get a call back. And that's just the reality of how the industry works. That's just real life. It sounds brutal, but they'll get whoever's available, and that can be such a wrestle.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like I've really had to learn the comparison is a thief of joy to like really understand that and soak it in and apply it to my life because that's really what it is. And like I can obsess over like I'm on LinkedIn today. How far did this girl get? Did she just secure a new position with this team? Like, well, is she better than I am? What am I not doing? Like, and it's just this whole rabbit hole. And before I know it, I've wasted like an hour of time sizing myself up to these other girls and seeing like what they have that I don't, how I can improve in that area because of that. And none of it at the end of the day is beneficial. Like, I'm not actually going to come away with that. Sometimes you come away with insightful things if I'm truly studying someone and truly seeing what they do well. But most of the time, it just comes out of a place in my heart where I'm like, I want what she has. And I'm just comparing myself constantly. And it ends up with me feeling bad about myself.
Well, it's really a wrestle between ambition and contentment, right? The desire, the
Mhm.
determination to achieve something or success, and then contentment in Christ, right? I don't think contentment necessarily even means apathy or laziness either, but in Christ, like we are content in what he has done for us on the cross. And honestly, it sounds really like dark, but like at the end of the day, like my life could end at any moment and my eternity is actually what matters and how I spent this life, right? I could chase the highest spot on the ladder, but it's not worth anything if I'm not pursuing Christ and pursuing what like the mission that he has put before me aside from my talent or whatever as a media professional.
Yeah. And I think just always remembering that like while my purpose on this earth is not to be a sideline reporter, I do believe that God is sending me in this direction because of the impact I can have on other people for his good. And I think like just remembering that in the tough times that like okay, God didn't throw me in this to just constantly tear myself down while I'm trying to be the best I can be. Like I'm trying to be the best I can be so that I can be a better steward of him and show people more about him. So yeah, I think that's so important for me to remember too. And it's just like that self-reflection, just being able to be like, this is what I have now, and this is the mindset that I don't like that I've been in. And just being able to work with what I got. Like God equipped me with everything. It's like he gave people words to speak when they couldn't speak. It's like, what do I think he can't do for me? Like I have all the tools. I'm more than blessed and fortunate enough to be in the position I'm in. So it's just like that constant like seeking after things. It's funny because I think about this is a weird example, but like even I went shopping the other week. I don't go clothes shopping too often, but sometimes when I get new clothes, I'm like, I'm so excited. I feel like my whole life is put together. I have the best outfit for every day. And then like yesterday, I remember I was thinking like, oh, I think I would really like my closet more if I had these other clothes. And I'm like, you literally just got new clothes. And now you're already just thinking about what other clothes you want. And it's the same thing with every like if I get a new piece of like makeup or skincare, I might be so excited. I think my whole life is set now, but 2 weeks later, I'm going to want the newest thing. And it's the same thing with life. Like I'm always gonna want more if I stay in that mindset of like, if I just grab that, then I'll be satisfied. If I can just get to this point, then I'll be satisfied. I'm just gonna get there and be looking for more. And that's why like you find those people who get to the top of their career and they'll tell people like, I got to the pinnacle and I was like, it just wasn't what I expected it to be. You know, you think it's gonna complete your life and make you feel like you've accomplished everything there is, you're going to feel so incredible, but you still have that sense of emptiness. And we're blessed to like know that our fulfillment comes from something better. So it's just like being able to call yourself out when you get in that mindset of like, if I just attain this, I'll be so happy. It's like, no, I am happy right now because I'm confident in Christ and what he's given me. So there's no reason to even feel that way. Like I could be living on the streets, but as long as Christ is in my life, like I am completely content. So it's obviously I don't do a great job of applying it. I have to do a much better job. I feel like a lot of us struggle with that.
Right. Well, let's talk more about what do you do practically when you're off, right? On the random day that you're off, or on the few days that it feels like we actually are taking a break from work. What kind of boundaries have you set up for yourself to protect that space?
Yeah, I think a good example is even this morning. I mean, I typically, it's to the point now where I don't have like a whole day that's off. It's more so like I have a half day here and a half day there. Like, and instead of being like, well, technically I'll still have work on this day, so I might as well work the whole day, I've kind of started seeing my days in half now, where like this is my half day where I'm completely off. So like before this podcast, I think I had a meeting at 11:30. So I was like, all right, up until 11:30 it's my off day. So I went and took a workout class I liked this morning. I came home and I baked some cookies. That was fun for me. And then I after that I just like dove into my Bible and like was reading this new book by Billy Graham. Not new because obviously he's passed away, but I was reading this new book that I got from Billy Graham. And I've been really big lately on like I need to get off my phone. Like I just need to get off my phone. And I think like I set my phone across the room and I was like, there's no reason for me to be on my phone in these moments. This is my off half day. Like no one's trying to get a hold of me. Nothing's that serious. I don't need to know what time it is. I'm fine. So I think a big boundary that I'm trying to set is the no phone, not no phone in total, but like I don't need to always be checking it, seeing who's trying to get a hold of me, because that's just gonna disrupt things, make me feel like I have to get back to work. And then also just settling down. Like just because I have work later that day doesn't mean that work starts at 5 a.m. this morning for me. You know, I have up until 3 o'clock, but before I have to start getting ready for a game, like that is a time that I need to like completely separate in my mind, just because it is we have such unique times with our shifts and everything and like our games. But yeah, I think that's been helping, like being able to see my days in halves instead of wholes, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I think something about the media industry is that there isn't always a perfect 24-hour day off. And I don't know if, um, that's something that we as believers need to look at as like, no, God said like the Sabbath day. I don't know how much, like, I'm not a
Yep.
theologian. I don't know how deep I can take that. But the reality is a lot of times we do just have half days here, half days there. We're working at night. And I think we need to have our own conviction about that. We need to study the word and decide, like, is this going to be against my conscience, right? Some people eat certain things and some people don't eat certain things because of their conviction in Christ. And I think we all have to work out our own faith, our own salvation, right? With fear and trembling. And then,
Yeah.
and if we have to do it a certain way, are we still honoring God with that time? Are we still, like you said, in the word, are we taking that Sabbath rest seriously and protecting that space? I love what you were saying
Mm-hmm.
about your phone. I'm totally the same way. I have to like lock it up, hide. I have to hand it to my husband sometimes and say, please, I
Mm-hmm.
don't care where you put it, just don't put it near me so that I can let it go. I actually
Yeah.
like turn my team's messages off because I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
respectfully, like I've had people there for me. I've called people on their off days before when I was learning, and I didn't want to do that. But you grow and then you're able to not have to call those people as much anymore. And so I'm like,
Yeah.
look, I'm here to help, but now that we're all, our team is a little bit more established, I don't have that big a need for that. So I try to like not be reachable except by like emergency call or text,
Yeah.
because I I happen to be married, and on the few days that I
Mm-hmm.
do have off, they don't always line up with my husband's days off. And that can get
Yeah.
really frustrating as a married person. So when I do have those days, I'm like, don't talk to me.
Mm-hmm.
There's a team here, and right now, we're in a season where we have just enough help. I'm going to let that
Mhm.
system work, because there may be a time where we don't have as much help, and we flex as a team and whatever. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's really interesting. We have to stop putting like consuming as much. It sounds like that's what you're protecting against.
Yeah, definitely. I've thought about a lot about lately, just like social media, how much we're accepting advice and information from people who we shouldn't be. Like literally if you go scrolling on your phone, you can see like 20 different people like saying this is what you need to do every day you wake up in the morning. This is what you have to do to get closer to God. This is what and it's like okay, I'll do that, I'll do that, I'll do that. And it's like if this happens in your relationship, he's not from the Lord. If this happens in your friendship, cut them off immediately. And I'm like,
Stop. I
what?
can't.
It's like I can't do it anymore. That's where I had to just be like, you know what? I need to like get off of it, and I just need to seriously like protect my mind. Like that's why God says guard your heart. It's like how much am I letting into my heart right now, and like actually letting affect my thoughts. It can be really damaging. So that's what's been a conviction for me lately of just like man, not every single person was meant to be a preacher of the word, and not every single person was meant to be a life and wellness coach. But
Mm,
for some reason, everybody's trying to be, and it's yeah, it's like yeah, it's important to protect ourselves from it.
sure. I do think we are all ministers of the gospel, and at some point we are like
Mhm.
preaching the word. But I understand what you mean. Like, not all of us are necessarily teachers, right?
God can work in any way, but it's like when you come across like the Instagram celebrity who like came to Christ like 2 days ago, and she's like, "These are 3 habits for a healthy Christian life," and you're like, I'm so happy you came to Christ, but like I don't think it's like time to talk about this stuff yet and like share information that might lead other people astray or like make people feel pressure that like, oh, they're not a good Christian because they're not doing this. It's not in like a healthy, convicted way. It's like it all gets very jumbled. Like I totally agree with you that we are all called to like be ministers of the gospel, but it can get so overwhelming when you have people who again like haven't put in their own personal time in the Bible and growing in the word that share things that can confuse other people, turn them away from the Lord, and just contribute again to like that hustle culture of like, if you're not doing this, you're not right. This is what you got to be doing, and it gets noisy, you know.
It does get noisy. I feel like this kind of segues really good into the next topic about being where your feet are. If your feet are in the
Mhm.
control room, be in the control room. If your feet are on the field, be in the field. But if you're not, don't try to be somewhere where your feet aren't, because you're just going to stretch yourself
Yeah,
thin.
yeah, it's a really good one because I feel like it applies to so many different aspects of life. I think number one in my career, it's like yeah, I have these dreams and these goals of one day to reach these different places and maybe like cover the NFL or something like that. But I'm still having so much fun covering my hockey game at Liberty or covering this baseball tournament. And it would be such a shame for me to not enjoy that while it's happening and like take away from the joy that brings me and can bring other people around me. So that's something I have to tell myself very often when I get too wrapped up in future goals and dreams because God gave us aspirations. I'm so thankful for that. But also, like in the day to day, I just want to be focused on the present. Like God says, don't worry about the future. A lot of times those dreams turn into worries about how am I going to get there? How am I going to reach that place? And we're not called to worry, which I've really had to like hammer down on in my own life because I'm not great at that. And it applies to so many other parts of life too. I think a great example too is like being in a long distance relationship where like I just don't want us to be in a long distance relationship. I want everything to be perfect and we can be closer to each other. But then again, I'm not enjoying where God has put me right now. I'm always wishing that I was somewhere else. And that's just not like that completely contradicts what God tells us to do. So, and just, yeah, like this morning, the big verse for me was like, wait on the Lord, like just wait on the Lord. And like we see that command a lot of times throughout scripture. And I think it's one thing to be like, yeah, wait on the Lord, like he'll renew my strength, but then to also be like, I'm seriously going to just have complete confidence that God is going to renew my strength when I just wait on him and wait for what he has for me in the future. Because it's all going to turn out beautifully. And like I'm just hurting myself by worrying right now. But yeah.
And even when you think about being present at work, I think we always think you're not going to be present outside of work, but There's a level of professionalism to be said about being present. Media is a very face to face job. It doesn't matter what you're doing. There's a lot of remote positions. Brand loyalty is built on seeing actual people from the company on their social media. Um, the way we network and build our careers is all face to face, the people you know. So if you can be present, like there's something about that that's different. And I also think too it's a very effective means of evangelizing.
Hmm.
If you are somebody who's a good listener who isn't always like distracted when they're talking to somebody, people take you seriously. They're more open to sharing what's in their heart with you.
Yeah. I really admired that trait of Rhett McGibbon, who works with us at Broadcast, because the guy has 9 kids. But I feel like when he is at work and we're like talking about things that like have to happen in this broadcast or ideas for things, like he is so present in the moment and like focused on that. And sometimes when I feel overwhelmed, I'm like, man, I have so much going on. I'm like, okay, Rhett McGibbon has 9 children. He still manages to be present with me in that moment and like help me through this problem or just like talk about the broadcasts we're doing, you know? So I think he's a great example of just like the impact it can have when someone is fully present. You feel like you get so much more out of those conversations and that work that you get done. And then you can see with other people too, like maybe someone has just a scurried mind that's everywhere, and you feel like if you bother them, you know, you're taken away from what they have going on, and you kind of feel bad to reach out. So I think it's really admirable to like see the difference and like be able to strive for like, hey, I just need to be that kind of person that I'm just in the here and now. Like when I'm at work, I'm going to leave my other job. I'm going to leave my just everything else at the door because I'm going to get so much more out of the time right here. It's going to help me. It's going to help those around me too.
Yeah, I'm so excited. Rhett's actually going to join us on the show here shortly, and I think he's just got an amazing story of
Mm-hmm.
wanting to having that ambition to like go go go,
Mm-hmm.
and then the Lord reining him back and saying, look, this is where I need you right now, and him being faithful to that. So I can't wait for you
Yeah,
guys to hear Rhett's story. Annie, this has been such
I'm
a
so excited.
great conversation. Is there anything else
Mm-hmm.
that you wanted to share before we wrap up this topic?
Anything else to share? I mean, I don't know. I can't think of anything crazy. I just am so glad that you're here, like talking with us about these things, because it's true. I feel like these are all conversations and topics that we all like battle with on a daily basis, and it can help so much to like not everything I say is things that like everyone needs to go and like implement or blah blah. You know, like I'm not saying I struggle so much with all these things, and so it's helpful just for me to talk about it. I just love talking about it, and I think it helps other people who are listening to it to not feel alone in those struggles of like, man, how am I going to balance my work and like all this other stuff at the same time? Like, how do I stay present? So, yeah, I'm just grateful for this time. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, thank you so much for that. It's really encouraging. I honestly feel a little bit sometimes that maybe I am the only one that feels this way. But then we have these
Mm-hmm.
conversations and I'm like, no, I'm not alone. And like not just because God's always with me, but like there are other people who are feeling the grind. And I think to be able to create space to
Yeah.
talk for that is a good thing. So I really appreciate that. Thank
Mm-hmm.
you. I can't wait for our next episode. We're going to be talking about humility and owning up to our mistakes. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching or listening through that entire episode. I really wanted this to be encouraging, and there's a few points of clarification that I wanted to give before we completely wrap the show up. The first is that I say that we have to have our own conviction about what it means to Sabbath. Does that mean a whole 24-hour day? What does the scripture mean there? And I still stand by what I say. I'm not a theologian. I don't know if a day is a 24-hour day. I don't know if that's an age of time. But what I do know is that God set me an example to rest, to accept the work that I have done in the previous 6 days, and to take a break. God also says that the Sabbath was made for man, and man was not made for the Sabbath. In other words, I don't need to become pharisaical about this either. If I work 7 days in a row, it's not like I'm going to hell for that, right? I have been sealed by Christ and his death on the cross and his resurrection. It's not going to keep me from going to heaven. So I can't become legalistic about this either. But I do think that when God says or does something and it's repeated in scripture, that we're supposed to take it seriously. And so I want to encourage you to take Sabbath seriously. For me, what that looks like is looking at my calendar, and every seventh day, if I'm working 6 days in a row and there's a seventh day that I might be working, that's my day off. It doesn't matter if that's a Sunday or a Wednesday. That is a protection for me, because if I know myself, and if I work all 7 days and I make a habit of working all 7 days, I will burn out. I have done it before, and I will do it again, because I am a human being who doesn't know how to stop. But God is gracious and He's merciful in showing me what it looks like to be regulated in my rest, to have a rhythm of rest. So I can thank God for His provision for me, that He has commanded that I keep a regular pattern of rest. For different people, rest is going to look differently, but I want to encourage you to take those Sabbath days to spend more time in the Word, spend more time in worship or in prayer. And if you can go to church, be in community. If you can find a Bible teaching church, go. Some churches meet on Sundays, other churches meet on Saturdays, and even other churches meet on Tuesdays or Thursdays, depending on where you live. So I want to encourage you to find that community. If you can get to church, go to church, because it is so much easier to do this life with other like-minded people so that we're not alone. Also, there is grace for this. So if you're at a place where you can't take every seventh day off, find a day where you can intentionally take some time to spend with the Lord. You don't have to be in your Bible all day, but we do want to be intentional. So wherever you're starting, maybe you are working 7 days out of 7 most weeks. There's grace for that. It's not going to keep you from going to heaven. Start where you are. There is so much growing that we could all do, and it is not worth fighting over the minutia when we just need to start. So I hope that helps clarify anything that maybe might have been misconstrued earlier in the episode. If this encouraged you and you know somebody else who could use the encouragement, please share this with them. And if you're enjoying what we're doing, make sure you hit the subscribe button and follow along for more conversations just like this. We'll see you on the next one.